So, hi everyone. I just introduce myself and start with that. I'm Anna Liebel. I'm leadership coach working with male leaders in tech, helping them reclaim their zone of genius. And that's the topic of today's show or today's conversation that I'll have with Daniel Karlsson. But a bit more about me. I have a project management background. I used to work in Sweden, and at the moment I live in Iceland. And since I moved to Iceland, I started my own company working with leaders. And I help them reclaim their zone of genius, as I said, by eliminating reactivity, transforming the leadership style of theirs, and also helping them become the catalyst of thriving company culture. And I really love this work, and I'm very, very excited to have one of my clients today with me, Daniel Karlsson. Daniel, warmest welcome to the show and to the stage.
Thanks a lot, Anna. Thanks a lot.
So we'll talk about reclaiming your zone of genius, but I wanted to give a bit of a background or the context to people. So I would like to start with asking you, how was your experience with coaching before me, and also what motivated you to look for a coach when you looked or found me, and also what motivated you to start working with me?
So before I started working with you, I had a little bit of experience working with a coach. I had a person coaching me for a couple of sessions. It was maybe 4 or 5 years ago, and it had, I say, huge effect, and it made me take an extra leap. And now I was in a situation where I was feeling that I was a bit standing still and wanted to continue to take the next step. So that's kind of the background why I started to look out for a new coaching work.
Mm-hmm. And actually, talking about the first experience of yours 4 or 5 years ago, what motivated you to ask for help then, if you see coaching as help?
Yeah, in that case, I was working at a company, and we had one senior person coming there, and we've been working quite a lot and together, and he kind of acted as a coach during our meetings and sessions. And then I just asked if it was okay for him to coach me for a couple of hours, and I also talked with my manager, and everyone was happy with that. So he kind of took on that responsibility. And since then he also developed and is now a formal coach. So it was something that he had within himself.
Yeah, sounds familiar. It rings the bell to me as well. All right, and then you were looking for someone who would help you take those next leaps, as with previous experience of yours, and then you ran into me on LinkedIn. So tell us a bit more about the experience of getting to know me and deciding to work with me.
Yes. So first a bit of, let's take one step back. So when I was starting to look for a coach, I wanted to have someone who was not in my immediate network. And the reason for that is I really wanted to have someone that I don't have any business relationship, and that I can be completely honest with. And of course you can be that if you have a good manager or with people that are within your network. But I felt like I wanted to have someone who was a bit outside. And I started to look around, and I found you on LinkedIn. I think I started by reading your post and so on. And then I saw one of your Livionairs, and I thought you made a very good impression. You asked good questions, and you seemed to know what you were talking about. So after that, we made contact, and I scheduled a strategy call, I think you call them. And after that, I got all the indications I needed to move on to the next step. And I wasn't searching for someone who could help with my one specific thing, but more to give a broad perspective, so I could be able to discuss more broadly. And what I heard from you kind of gave me that opportunity. So it was not like we should focus on this slim thing, but taking the whole leadership experience.
I don't work with a particular curriculum, or I don't have a program that everyone goes through the same way, because you clients can come with one description of one situation or one problem, but then we start uncovering it and unfolding it, and we find some other layers, and it turns to a completely different scope. And I don't want to misguide you that we'll work on particularly that thing that you want to, you think, because it might not be the solution that you're looking for. And sometimes you don't know what you don't know. So I'm very open to to explore together with my clients. And that's also something that there's a must for me when we go into those strategy calls, when we also look into working together. That's one of my checkpoints. Like, okay, is this person open to explore together and not like have the predictability and have the particular schedule of the sessions and so on. So it's good that we connected on that point.
Yeah, just one reflection. If I had a specific topic, say that I was afraid of spiders or something, then I could pinpoint. I mean, I need someone with KBT to help me with that one. But yeah, as you said, the broad spectrum was the one I was looking for.
Great. And it was in mid-December that we started working, and we have our weekly calls, unless there is some holiday like last week with the Easter. And it's 5-month commitment that we're having, and we're 3 months into it. And I'd like to talk about how your process of reclaiming your zone of genius is going. And one of the problems that you came to me with, or one of the things that you wanted to work on, is giving negative feedback. And I would like to go into that conversation first of all, because it's a very exciting one for me at the moment, because we had quite an interesting situation 2 weeks ago when you had to practice that on me. And just to give a bit of a context to everyone, I'm going through a difficult situation in the family. My mom has they found a tumor on her heart just several weeks ago, and it was quite quick that they did a surgery and removed the tumor. So it's been a bit of a difficult situation, and I'm originally from Ukraine and my family is still there. So it's hard to be away in Iceland, and at the moment with the COVID, it's not just like buying a ticket and hopping on a plane and being there for my family. And it's quite a hard situation to try to support her and the rest of the family, and at the same time run my business, do the things here, and at the same time we moved to our new home last week and so on. So it's been a lot of things, quite conflicting with each other on an emotional level. And just our last session with you, Daniel, we had 1.5 weeks ago, and just before that in the morning I talked to my mom, and she looked very bad. Actually, she didn't look like she felt well. And I took that with me into the conversation with you. And in the beginning, when you asked me how I'm doing, which we usually do, we start the call with that, I was honest with you that I said I'm not well. And I realized that I'm just about to break out in tears, and which did happen a bit. So I just said to you that my family member is not feeling well, and I'm not sure how it will go, because at the moment we still don't know what kind of cancer it was and how bad it is, and so on. And then I said, I want to focus on what I can affect at the moment, because with that situation, I can't do much. So let's go with the session. And I have seen that that has affected you a lot throughout the session. That I just kind of closed the door and we went on. And we still had a good conversation. You still got some points out of it. But I felt like I owed you something afterwards. And that's why I explained it to you in the email afterwards, a bit more detail what's going on. And after that, we had a conversation the day after just to discuss that. And after that second conversation, you said that it was the most difficult feedback conversation you've ever had to take. And I would like to discuss that a lot. Just first of all, going through this context from your side, what you have experienced, and then talking about why was it so difficult and why did you actually get into that conversation despite it being so difficult?
So there's many thoughts popping in my head right now, but let's take them down one by one. Yeah. And if we focus on this specific call, first of all, we have spent a couple of times discussing giving the negative feedback. And we talked about concepts like, okay, I'm not fully responsible of the receiving end, and as long as I do it to make a big good intention to help the other person like improve and stuff like that, then it's okay for me to give what could be perceived as negative feedback. And just one thing about not focusing on the receiving end is like for some persons, I think maybe they need to focus more on the receiving end because they say things that are not received well. But in my case, I'm more on the other side. So I think maybe a bit too much on the receiving end. So that's kind of a background why I don't feel comfortable in giving negative feedback, and especially if the feedback doesn't have a bar to be measured against. I mean, if I know that you're supposed to be reach 5 on a scale and you're just 3, then it's easy for me to give feedback because then I can point to something concrete. But if I just feel like something, or then it's more difficult for me to bring it forth in a good way. And we discussed that many times. And in this specific meeting, as I said, I noticed that something was wrong, and that kind of I had that within me for the whole meeting, and I could like focus maybe 80% on the topic, and you did a good job to try to keep the conversation. But then now we will be sounding very egoistic, but the coaching meeting is about me, and the focus should be on me. So best case scenario, I shouldn't need to think about your emotional state during the conversation. Now I'm very like egoistic, but
no, you're very fair.
Yeah. So after the conversation, you sent me the email, and I read it through, and I was like, okay, I think that I need to express how I felt and give it as a feedback, because I can imagine that in some situations, if you were in this state, it would not be good for you, for your business and for your way going forward. So I had kind of a good intention with giving this negative feedback. But it was very difficult due to 2 things. First of all, I didn't have the bar to measure it against. So, but then I had your teachings in the back of my head saying that it's okay anyways. Yeah. Secondly, I knew that it's a very sensitive topic for you. So I mean, I wanted to be able to deliver the feedback in a way that you understand it's a positive feedback and it doesn't like break you down too much. So it was a combination of knowing that you were in this emotional state and to give negative feedback. Both those things were combined, which made it extra difficult. I mean, in most of the cases, people aren't in that sensitive state. So it kind of added some extra complexity.
Would you have gotten into this conversation 3 months ago before we started working together, if you would be in a similar situation?
I don't think so. Maybe I would have asked a bit more, like after the meeting, what happened, but then I think I would have left it there. It's kind of something that I noticed throughout the coaching sessions are like, in the beginning, I had difficult situations, difficult discussions, and then I was thinking about the discussions before and afterwards, and it was a bit of a process. And now, when we are a few months in, I can look back in a week and realize that I had like 3 or 4 such conversations without really noticing any special things about them. It's difficult to point a finger on exactly what has happened, but I think it's the process that we've been going through with discussing like all the details, and you have helped me to like probe my thinking and to maybe shine other lights on how I think and give me new perspectives and new tools to handle those situations. But it's not like when I go into such a difficult situation that I like, okay, what did Anna say exactly about this situation? It's more, I mean, it's internalized, and that's not a good thing with having this long engagements that you push for like 5 months. It really gives us a chance to discuss a topic, and then I can go home and think about it, and I can write summaries and try to internalize it, and then I can come back a few weeks later when the seed has been growing, and we can discuss it once more. And because to me, it like takes time to and I need to discuss this topic. So
And it's not only for you, Daniel, that's actually a process for everyone to internalize those learnings. And I think that's the big problem with the short, intense trainings that on leadership that quite often happens within the companies, when companies send their leaders or aspiring leaders to the trainings, and it all looks super good on the paper and theory is really making sense, but then leaders come back to their workplace and 1 week later they have a situation that like, so how am I supposed to apply this to this situation now? I have no clue, and they have nowhere to go. And that's why I am pushing for the longer engagement with my clients, so that you actually can get with those situations to me and say, hey, Anna, here's the situation. What do I do now? And then we play through it, we discuss it, and then you kind of learn how to apply the knowledge that you're getting in the practice that you are living through as a leader. So that's a very important process. And I think I want to point out a couple of things here that you said. First of all, that even with the same problem or same challenge, different people can have different perspectives. Like you said, that you are more on the side that you're filtering yourself too much when you need to give a negative feedback because you don't want to upset someone, you don't want to be perceived rude or so. And the other people could be on the other part of the spectrum where they just don't care and they give it too hard, they give it maybe in a rude way, hurting people. So it's a spectrum, right? And it's important to understand where you are on those spectrums and what your particular challenges are, whether it's giving negative feedback or anything else, what you were facing as a leader. So I think it's a very good point to really, again, emphasize there is no one size fits all. And you need to really figure out where are your gaps or what do you want to learn and improve and work on those particular areas. And talking about choosing a coach, look for that and ask for that. Be bold when you're having those free calls. Ask like, okay, this is my situation. What can you offer me here? And discuss it with a potential coach of yours. And think about, does their approach fit me? Do I feel like they will really help me with my problems? Even if I don't know what my problems are in the moment, how is their approach? How are they exploring the issue with me? I think it's very important. But then going back to this conversation, we discussed it with you that you first of all, you gave me a very good question when we had the post-session discussion. You asked, like, would you be the same? Would you show up the same way for someone who in the first call? And I said that I would still show up. The question was, would you cancel it? I said I would still show up, but I think I would not open up as much. Because, and I think this was what you cared about, right? That this can hurt my business, for example. And I'm not saying that it will never do, but what we discussed with you in the conversation is that it's very hard balance. People are talking about that you need to be vulnerable and you need to show your emotions as a leader, but there is no scale, as you say, and there is no handbook and blueprint. Do exactly like this. And especially when it comes to situations like I'm going through, I might be losing my mom at the moment and I'm not next to her. I don't know what's going on. And she's trying to protect us, not saying everything. So I see the pain, I see the struggle, but at the same time, it's tough. And that's the thing, like, it's nothing that you get through in the leadership coaching or in leadership training, right? It's nothing that you get a kind of an instruction step by step how to do. And I think why I got into this call with you and why I shared it with you so vulnerably is because I want to give you permission as well. And that's what I do with my clients, that I want to give you permission to be yourself. And of course, it still has to be professional. And it still has to be about you as a client when we have client calls. But at the same time, I do hope that there is some learning in that and the positive learning for you. And also, I'm so proud of you. And I told you about that in the next call when you told me that, okay, this is a very difficult conversation. I told you that I'm so proud of you that you actually are taking this conversation and you are diving into this storm with me in a very emotional situation for me and quite emotional, quite tough situation for you. And it's amazing to see your progress. As you said, you sometimes have 3-4 conversations per week with those, like with providing feedback, constructive feedback to people, but you don't really notice. And I, at some point, told you about that you started mentioning those conversations as a kind of matter of fact thing, which is a huge progress from the start. So I'm very grateful that we are able to share this experience with each other. And as I said, I'm still learning what is the, so to say, optimal level of vulnerability as a leader, as a coach. It's a process of trial and error, but I think it's important to be open to try.
I would like to latch on to one thing, and that is like the openness, which is kind of, to me, that's the one divider of a coach and maybe your manager, because like one view could be, but you can have all the discussions with your manager instead. Why do you need a coach? But talking to a coach, I don't need to prove anything. I don't need to you will not set my salary for the next few months. I can be like 100% open, and I can only be right, and there's nothing like, there's no meaning for me to hide anything. I don't need to be strategic about what I'm saying, to think maybe this will like decrease my chances of getting promoted or getting a new assignment or whatever. It's just like, okay, you are here to serve me, and I can say exactly what I want. It's like an open room with soft walls. It's that's how, and that kind of opens up to new conversations and new insights, which I think it would be difficult for me to have it with my manager, because then I know that, okay, even though I should be open to my manager, there's still this filter, there's still this, okay, I need to look good, and I cannot like say 100% how it is. I stay at the 80 or 95% level, because like, oh, I don't want it to surface those things. But with a coach, you can be like 100%, and then when you are 100% true to yourself and say exactly how you think, I mean exactly how you think, then you can you can start working on that, and you will see new effects. Since you're doing new things, you will also see new effects, and you can like take that extra step. So that's also, say that that you weren't my coach, but you were someone I was working with and opening with the same way as you did it. Maybe I wouldn't have given feedback in the same way, because I didn't practice it before with someone in that emotional state, but now I have practiced it once with you and it went okay. So now I have like comfort to do it for real life.
What was going on in your head before the conversation, this kind of second conversation, when you knew that you wanted to give me this feedback and we set an extra call to discuss it?
There were like, first there were the advice thing. It's like, okay, if you were acting like this in the first discussion with a new customer, I think it could serve you in a bad way. So I just want to give you that feedback, and then it was, okay, how should I present it to be on the right level and to like polish it, or like I was a bit afraid of saying the wrong words and phrasing it in the wrong way, since I knew it was kind of very sensitive to you, and it still is. So it was those two things who like were spinning in my head.
How did it feel after the conversation?
And it felt good that I did it, and I was just hoping that you received it in a good way. And we ended the discussion pretty abruptly, because I had another meeting. So maybe it would have been good to take 10 more minutes and to summarize and wrap it up, because I still had some thoughts spinning in my head.
Yeah. I think you did a really great job. And talking about the first thing that you said about the piece of advice that it might affect my business, if it would be the first call with a new client, you didn't push it as your opinion. You actually asked questions, and that's what we talked about, and we coached you on that, right? How to.
Yeah, you did that like a million times.
And you did a good job with that. You really did. You asked me questions, and you asked me several different questions to explore that together. You said you were really kind of trying to understand my point of view instead of pushing yours. And in the end, you shared your opinion, but it was already after we have explored my part of it and my opinion. So that's a very powerful way of doing it. And I'm really proud that you actually have been able to do that this way, to give your feedback this way, and that you practiced it on me. And I've seen the effects, not only by hearing how you deal with the conversations in your job, but also I've been on the receiving side, and it did feel good. It did. You were very respectful. You were very understanding, but at the same time, you wanted to help. You came into the conversation with the point of view of serving me and helping me improve. That's what we discussed. So I was very proud of that, and I was very thankful that you actually have done it with me. And as I said, by no means have I been perfect in that situation. I'm not trying to anyhow explain myself that way, but I think it's a great experience for both of us to learn from.
Yeah, I can just chip in other like advantages of having a coach, and that's you told me the nice word, and that's accountability partner. So it's like in the best case scenario is that you're always your own accountability partner. So you promise yourself something, and then you always keep that promise. And for me, it works in some cases, but in some cases, I need to have some external accountability partner. And that's one thing that have pushed me all the way, and I like to really try out the concepts or the learnings that you have given me. And this was like also a case of that. Is okay now. I cannot go back to Anna and say that I give feedback when I notice it's necessary, because then I would have been cheating. And having you as an accountability partner, or having a coach as an accountability partner, is one thing which I have a very good effect for me.
That's a red thread that a lot of my clients are going through, that they say that I can't come to you and lie into your eyes and say like, okay, I've been doing this and that, what we discussed, or have been practicing that. So that's a good way of me really nudging you as my client to get into that internalizing for real, and not just jump from topic to topic and not get anywhere in depth.
Yeah, and I mean that's the main reason why personal trainer works much better than buying a gym card, because they're basically your accountability partner. So it's proven. It's proven in many other fields that it's a concept that works, and then maybe you can build your own accountability muscle. So you can also practice that part, but.
As we discussed, it's stages, and just because you feel like you don't need accountability at the moment, it doesn't mean that you'll never ever need it in the future, because you're developing, right? I'm attracting high achievers, the people who want to improve, who want to get better at what they do and how they are as a human. So it will be a spiral that goes up. You keep developing and developing and developing, and sometimes you get into this kind of curve in the spiral where you need a bit of extra momentum. You need some extra push from outside. Even though you're good at accountability with other things that you have already internalized, you come into a new level and you need some extra support with that. And that's what we discussed with you, that you need to sometimes lean on me and borrow my confidence in you and borrow my beliefs and my discipline sometimes to help you with this new level. That's for sure one of the roles of me as a coach. Let's go back to one of the things that you said. You said about being true to yourself in this conversation, that it's part of that, the thoughts that were going through your head. And I would like to tap into that, because I would think that this is one of the things that is the learning for you from our coaching, right? We talk a lot about your zone of genius. We don't use those terms. We talk about your brand, your values, how you want to show up, what kind of legacy you want to leave after yourself in each assignment, each workplace you work at, and in your company. So can you tell us a bit about what has happened on that front since we started working together?
Yeah, first I just want you to define zone of genius. So it's clear to everyone what you mean by that.
So should I do it?
Yeah, just so everyone understands what you mean by that concept.
Good point. For me, it's really being aligned with your values, your inner being, and your ultimate way of thinking how you want to be as a human being in the life. It's a bit like a flow, but if we talk about the state of flow, it's usually about some particular activity. For me, zone of genius is the flow of living. So being in a flow when you live your life. So it's not attached to a particular activity. It's really more about being aligned with how you see yourself as the best ultimate version of yourself.
Yeah, so I remember pretty early on, we started talking about the difference between self-esteem and self-confidence. And we noticed that I think I've always been pretty high on the self-confidence scale, but a bit lower on the self-esteem scale. And I think like to stay in your zone of genius, you need to work on your self-esteem so that you can dare to do the things that you really want to do, not because you're good at them or because like you're to make your parents proud or whatever, but to really look into yourself and see what you think is what you enjoy doing, and then like dare to do those things. So for me that is like staying in the zone of genius, is to think about those things. And I think we're pretty hard, or at least I'm pretty hard, like brought up to work to do what I'm good at. That's like the upbringing. So you're good at this, so do it more. And now, like when you have some years under your belt, at least I start to think, okay, what do I really want to do, and am I doing those things, or am I just doing the things I'm good at? And that's not like an easy thing to, or at least for me, it's not an easy thing to like come to a conclusion for.
How do you explore what you would like to do?
So there are actually, I started exploring what I like to do a couple of years before our coaching, and then I try to look back and see in what cases have I like enjoyed the situation so much that I lost track of time, and try to go back and see like when I was 14, 15, 16 up to like 20, in what cases where I'm in the zone, and I try to like write them down. And now since we started journaling, I also try to write down every day when I'm doing something where I lose track of time and thinking like this is the best thing ever. So try to like remind myself and to just build up a database of those sentences, and then I can start looking for patterns and see like which situations, what are the common thread between those cases where I really enjoyed myself.
I hear the researcher in you talking.
yeah and as I said, like I'm so envious of those persons who find that when they're 20 and then just like this is the track of my life and I enjoy every minute of them, and then it's it's just like the railroad and everything just flows. But for me it has taken a bit longer time, but
it's
maybe
part
the
of your
important
journey.
thing is to search and never stop.
And also enjoy on the way. Whenever you find something new, don't think like, oh, what else don't I know?
Yeah.
Or what else am I to discover? But also just stay there in a moment and enjoy it. Like just Julius, who is on the call now, he commented on one of my posts recently that he's submitting one of his papers for his studies one month in advance, and then he's doing a celebratory dance. This is how you should be within your zone of genius. You know that, yeah, there are more assignments to come. But once you have submitted this one, when you have tackled whatever step it is, you actually take a moment and actually celebrate yourself, whatever way it fits. And just that you actually keep reminding yourself that good feeling of being in this exploration.
I think like the next phase is like, okay, when you have identified what you really enjoy doing, why not optimize your life to do more of those things? But I think that's the difficult part, because if you notice that your work is not aligned with what you like doing, then it's a bit of a bigger step. But maybe you can start with including more of that in your current work and take like baby steps in the right directions. But that's really something I'm focusing on, trying to do more of what I noticed that I enjoyed doing. It sounds like a super simple thing and super obvious thing to do, but I think me and many others are just, running along.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that you gave a really good tip now here. First of all, I love how you're expanding your homework with journaling to adding new items to journal on. And I really liked how you give this tip of write down what did I do today where I lost track of time, or what I really enjoy doing. Just pay attention to what are you writing down there every day or even every week, whatever your level of commitment is at the moment, the comfortable level for you. Just really focus on that, like start getting all those data points that you actually can have enough information to start seeing the trends, identifying them. So that's a great piece of advice, I would say, for people to just explore, pay attention to what are you doing, and also maybe add what did I do that really felt heavy and I didn't enjoy doing it at all, and start looking for patterns there, and then commit to taking action. Because just as you said, Daniel, it's not easy, and especially if we see that we need to make a huge change, it's difficult and scary, and you feel like I've gone too far in my life, I have too many commitments and so on and so forth, maybe. Or it could be as well a bit of a pride involved there, and I'm not saying it in a bad way, we all have it. It's part of our identity, whatever we're doing. So it can be just feeling too scary or somehow low to give up on that part of ourselves. But start small. Try to break it down into micro steps and find, okay, what kind of tiny thing can I do today to actually get a bit more into alignment? Like one tiny degree closer to the course that I would like to have. Explore that.
I think you said one very important thing, and that's to take action. Because take getting too many emails as a concrete example. I mean, you hear the same person complaining of too many emails for years and years. And there's a solution to it. So just like write it down, I get too many emails, and then set up an action plan, and you will solve it in 2 days. And then that problem is solved. So just focus on, okay, what is good or bad, and how do I solve it, and take action and do it and go on, instead of just like complaining about it. So take action. That's really a key word from you there.
Yeah, I love it. And I love the example about the emails and how really to take action. And sometimes you discussed it in our conversations, that sometimes people are feeling that they are inefficient in some way in their days and their schedules and so on. And it takes half an hour sometimes to set up a structure. Just sitting down, thinking, maybe jotting some structure on the paper, and then implementing it in whatever software, whether it's your Outlook, if it's about your emails, whether it's something about your schedule, with creating blocks there to actually get things done, or enjoying the things that you like to do and have space for them in your calendar. So it does take a commitment, but it's worth it, guys. And it's not about we're giving you extra thing on your plate. It's us trying to explain to you that you have the power. The whole point of Genius Leadership for me is really to empower you, to get your power back, really, to feel like there are things in your life that you can change. There are things in your life that you can affect. And when you focus on them, and when you align that with the clarity of where you want to be, you're unstoppable.
I think like one thing you need to overcome, and talking about me, but I think it applies to many other like leaders and people that are listening to your podcast and so on, is like, okay, I will do it next week because this week my schedule is full. And the key is, I mean, next week your schedule will approximately look as this week. And in 3 months, your schedule will look approximately as it did this week. So there will never be an hour or 2 hours free in your calendar for doing actions. So you just need to carve out one hour or 2 hours each week to do these things. There will never be any like free spots when it's perfect. And if you wait for them, you need to wait for your retirement. So just put the stick in the ground and mark 1 hour in your calendar and get going and take action. That's.
And sometimes even 15 minutes can be enough.
Yeah, sometimes even 15 minutes.
Yeah. Just about starting and then seeing the results and effects of that. Like, oh, I got some energy because I've done this. And you just get excited, you get more motivated, so you're getting more productive as well. So it's really about finding that tiny step that will be small enough for you to take it as the first one.
But yeah, but what I'm saying is like you need to prioritize. You need to put in those 15 minutes in your calendar, because otherwise it will not happen. And I mean, I've been procrastinating like that for like years, and then I decided, okay, now I need to reserve 1 hour a week for our calls. It's not like I had 1 hour free in my calendar.
What did you have to give up on that? Like, let's talk about that. Like, okay, you took this step after procrastinating for years. The pros and cons of that, or the consequences.
So I need, really no one questioned it. So the current customer didn't ask why do you have an hour in your calendar saying private? And like, I think in one case we have moved that hour, but otherwise I booked for the whole 5 months in a row. And then I haven't really experienced any issues or problems with it.
How about yourself, an internal thing that, okay, I'm spending this hour, that meant that some things you had to drop, right? So were there any tough feelings about that feeling bad that you are being selfish for this 1 hour?
No, I think like for me, many others, when you have less time, you're more efficient. So I just know that I have 1 hour less work on Thursdays. I need to be a bit more efficient, and then it's no major sacrifice at all, how I would say. And I mean, worst case, I can compensate by working 1 hour at night if it's necessary. If there's something that needs to be like finished, or if it happens once every 2 months, we could move the meeting.
Yeah, definitely. It's really about making a choice, and as you said, Daniel, putting the stick in the ground and really.
But I think the barrier is to book that hour, and when that's or that 15 minutes, and when that's done, you can realize, okay, it wasn't more difficult than this.
What other things have you noticed as the results of our work after these 3 months?
I noticed how little I've been talking leadership before. Because like my experience being a project manager is that we talk very little leadership on our meetings. When I would meet up with the steering group, it's usually, time, cost, and quality, time, cost, and function, and prioritization. We never talk like, okay, how do you make your team work as good as possible, or the senior manager say, okay, I have this super good leadership idea that can increase the productivity of your team by 5%. Try it out. Or what leadership ideas do you have, Daniel, and do you do in your meetings? That never happens.
And you feel like it's necessary to have those conversations around the table?
I think it could improve the time, cost, and quality a lot. Because as I see it, time, cost, and quality are lagging indicators of how your team is doing, and really how the individuals in your team is feeling, is being motivated, and so on. I mean, if they are super happy, motivated, and think that everything is double thumbs up, then it will show itself on time, cost, and qualities a few months later. So I think it definitely would have been interesting to have a room for that in your projects, or I don't know how it is to be a line manager. Maybe the reality for line managers is totally different, but
from my experience back in the corporate, it wasn't. It was very little, and it was discussed in the end of the agenda when everyone just wants to go to the next meeting because they're minute to minute, 10 minutes away, walk-wise from each other, so they're not there anymore mentally. So that's an issue. And you're talking about that with me as well, that you're like, how can we normalize coaching, that we actually take those conversations a bit more? So do you have any suggestions how to bring that to the workplaces for our genius leaders tuning in? How can they start that conversation in their workplace?
So I've been thinking quite a lot of this, and what I see as the best way to scale up coaching and leadership coaching would be to make the managers that are at companies, to make them great coaches. Because that would be the best way to scale, because I think it's too high barrier for all the employees at the company to have their own external coach. But say that you as a coach, you get to teach the managers within a company how to work more as a coach, and then it could scale. Because like if you draw the parallel to sports, I'm really into sports, then every athlete that wants to improve have a coach. It's not like, okay, I learned how to ski for 2 years and then I just do competitions and try to learn on the competitions. No, you get yourself a coach who can tell you how to do, and who can even stand by yourself and say what you're doing wrong. In the workplace, you go to school, you learn your project management stuff, and then you just compete for your whole life without any coach telling you how to improve. And I mean, that's not the best way of developing into a good coach, or a good project manager, or a good leader.
Definitely.
So it's fascinating to look at those two worlds, when in one world it's everyone has a coach, 100%. And in the other world, the professional world, I don't know what the percentage of, but I think it's less than 100%.
Yeah, definitely. And I like how you discussed it in one of our sessions, that when you get a responsibility at work for some machine in the factory, for example, you get the training on day one, how to use the machine. When your machine, quote unquote, is your people, when you're managing people, you don't get the training. You don't know how to best use your tool, so to say, without breaking it. And that's dangerous, and that's what we see in the workplace now with engagement and the mental illness issues, and generally also the physical health, how that is affected by people being not led well. But I want to finish. I meant all the time that you soon have to take care of your daughter who's coming from school, so I want to be mindful of the time, and I would like to finish on that positive note. So could you give 3 pieces of advice to our genius leaders about anything?
I think it would be a bit of repetition, I think. So the first advice would be to, starting from next week, carve out that 15 minutes, 30 minutes, 1 hour in your calendar. Make it a booking for forever. That's the start of everything. And then the second thing would be to think about what to fill that 15 to 1 hour, or 15 minutes to 1 hour with. And one approach would be to look into your personal goals. What are your goals at, you can take whatever theory, but say 3 years, 1 year, and 3 months. And if you haven't defined those, take those 15 minutes to 1 hour and think about what you want to become or what you want to change within that time frame. And once that is done, you kind of have something to fill your time with. Because without a goal, you will just be doing the random walk, and you will end up in pretty much the same position year after year. But with a clear goal, you have a direction and you can move forward. And finally, it's to try to stay curious.
I love that this word sounds more and more on my podcast that I did not expect when I started the podcast. I thought it's a word that is not used in the context of leadership, but more and more people are using it, and I'm happy about that. Daniel, what would be one practical piece of advice of yours that people can take as an action from?
I'm known for repeating myself and saying the same thing many times. So it's carve out those 15 minutes to 1 hour. That's the concrete piece of advice.
It sounds like it's a very powerful thing.
Huge impact, I can promise you all, if you go from 0 to that.
Exactly, it's a huge improvement then. Daniel, if people want to connect with you and find more about what you're doing, or share more of your journey or leadership journey, where can they find you?
I think it's easiest to find me on LinkedIn. Just search for my name.
Yeah, I will put the link in the show notes, and I'll also share it in the comments for the replay for the video. And to everyone who listening and watching, I would like to really emphasize that it's important to not be alone on this leadership journey. Just as we discussed with Daniel, it's important to ask for help. What Daniel has done really brilliantly with his first experience with a coach, when he just saw a person whom he looked up to and said, hey, can I get more of your help, and just really be focusing on myself for several hours. And he said that it gave him leaps and bounds. So you as a leader, you really need support. And if you feel like you would like the support from me, I'm really happy to hop on a call. As Daniel said, we have the strategy calls that are complementary, and we focus on you for 30 minutes and really define your zone of genius and help you start laying out that plan that you can follow to get in alignment with that zone and get into that zone. So I'll also share the link to the calls in the description to the video and in the show notes for the podcast. And please reach out to me and I'll be happy to support you. And if you were to work for 5 months, then I'm also more than happy to discuss that and see whether we're a fit. Daniel, thank you so much for the conversation and your honesty and openness. I'm really grateful that you are sharing your experiences and you are also sharing this journey with me. I'm learning just as much from you as you're learning from me. Different ways, different things, but it's a journey that I really, really appreciate. I see the comment from Marianne. Thanks to both of you for demonstrating the value of coaching. Thank you, Marianne, for tuning in and for being here with us. Marianne was here from Canada, which is morning time for her. And we discussed just in the pre-chat that it was at least 4 countries joining today, which I'm very happy about. And I hope more people will find the value of coaching in whichever form it takes, but really never stay alone. Ask for help and ask for accountability, because we all deserve it. Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot, Anna.